Good morning, Zio here, and today we go back to the series that I had started, haven't continued in a hot minute because a lot of stuff went down. Uh, Final Fantasy 14 versus Warcraft, and the last one we did was talking about the developers. However, of course, I realized after I done it that I spent the entire time talking about Blizzard developers and stuff like that that I forgot that I hadn't actually mentioned the Final Fantasy 14 developers. So that's this one. This is like the second half of that, where we talk about Final Fantasy 14 developers. So with that, grab yourself some coffee, sit back, relax, and let's get into it, shall we? Yeah, we're back to the base cam for this one because I actually don't really have anything to show you. Strangely enough, it happens sometimes, right? So I sat down and I got to thinking, when has the Final Fantasy 14 developers been like WoW developers are just crappy in general, right? Just so I can see if there was a time that they were as bad as World of Warcraft's developers. And unfortunately, I couldn't find an answer to that because, well, I've not been with the game that long. It's only been like 2 years. And in my time, the Final Fantasy 14 developers literally are like, between the two, they're like night and day. They're two completely different groups of people, where one seems to completely resent, their fans and hate their communities and stuff like that, while the other one just completely loves their community. They love the fandom. They love everything about it. They play their game and, can't get enough of it. So I took over here, you can't see it because it's Facebook, but I went to several groups that I happen to be a part of, which are Final Fantasy 14 groups, right? And they're private groups, so I don't want to actually show their things or anything. But I took to it and said, hey fam, so I'm in the middle of doing this series of videos, right? And this isn't a plug or anything like that, so don't take it as that. I have a legit question, but has there been any time in which developers were like Blizzard devs or of recent years? Were they resentful? Were they just awful? Is there any time where the developers were not just enthusiastic about the game and loved the community and was part of it? And I got a ton of answers, right? So the problem is, this is why I don't have anything to show. Yeah. The last time anyone can remember that the developers of Final Fantasy XIV were not, say, there for the game properly, or just didn't care, or whatever, or were just bad in general, was back in 1.0. Until about the time they did the change of management and stuff, and we got Yoshi P involved, and then suddenly things reversed. They wound up shutting down the game, they revamped it, people started having to play WoW as homework, and then started working on A Realm Reborn. But since then, it's never been like that. So that's like the only bit of criticism I got. And of course, somebody else over here had linked some documentaries that I'm going to try and link down in the comments below on Final Fantasy XIV. Apparently some kind of document series, a part 1, a part 2, and a part 3, of where, the devs in 1.0 were trying to listen and stuff and all those other things. However, it was apparently too late into the life cycle of what was going on for them to, I guess, realize how badly things had messed up. And then that was about the time that Yoshi P was director for the 1.x patch content, and things started to go into the way that we see them now. But yeah, so I got all these answers, of course, and they're all praises of the developers. This makes for a very short video because there's nothing to criticize here for the most part. I don't know enough about the subject myself to give you anything, but according to a ton of other people who have been around since the beginning of the game, including people who, said that they were there for 1.0, there's not a whole lot there. So you've got Final Fantasy XIV, they're devs. They generally love the community. They have FanFest. which is their BlizzCon essentially. They're enthusiastic to be there. The director of the game just loves being there. He's plays the game, has maxed all of the classes or the jobs and all this other stuff apparently. And when they do have FanFest, apparently he like logs in to interact with people and stands there for them to come to him to not only be able to interact with them while they're at FanFest and stuff, but to interact with them in game and things. And that's just not something you see over on the Blizzard side of things. Yeah, I mean, it's been years that it has felt like that any of the Blizzard developers really want to be there, let alone working on the game. And over on Final Fantasy, it's a completely different story. They have love for the community, they have love for the game, they take in feedback, they tell you straight up if it's something that they can do, if it's something that they're going to look into, if it's something that they don't know if they're capable of doing it. You can see several like interviews and stuff like that, and none of this you think you do but you don't nonsense that you would get from the Blizzard side of things. They're just like, we can look into that. However, I don't know if we're going to be able to, but we can look into it, right? Or we just can't do that because of the system, the way it's set up and stuff. It is beyond our capabilities, things like that. And it's a breath of fresh air. The community is great, the developers are great, and yeah, that's the difference right there. If Blizzard developers would treat their fandom the same way, I wonder if all this stuff that recently went down would have went down the way it did, to be totally honest. I honestly don't know. And maybe it would have. Maybe there would have been more people defending them. But, or maybe it would have got swept under the rug or something and nobody would have talked about it. Who knows? To be totally honest, this is just speculations on things. But, yeah, they're night and day. They really are. With the new management, of course, in place now, we'll see how things change over time. Maybe this actually gets better. In recent days, apparently you've seen it ramp up even worse, where developers are saying things they probably shouldn't be saying on social media to their fandoms or to their fans and stuff like that, their customer base over on that side. But who knows, maybe in time it gets better. But yeah, I guess that's about all I got to say on that. So next time, I think we're going to be talking about the shops, the cash shops. We'll see you in a bit. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment, smash that like button, and always subscribe for more. And of course, there are other videos floating around somewhere on the screen, so click one of those and see if you can find something that suits your fancy. Till then, I'll see you later. Bye.